Hey, so this is now chapter 10 of the familiar letters of John and Abigail Adams. So here we go. Falmouth, 7 July 1774. Have you seen a list of the addressers of the late governor? And there's a footnote. We'll come back to it at the end. There is one abroad with the character, profession, or occupation of each person against his name. I have never seen it, but Judge Brown says against the name of Andrew Fanuel Phillips is, quote, nothing. And that Andrew, when he first heard of it, said, better be nothing with one side than everything with the other. This was witty and smart, whether Andrew said it, or, what is more likely, it was made for him. A notion prevails among all parties that it is politest and genteelest to be on the side of administration, that the better sort, the wiser few, are on one side, and that the multitude, the vulgar, the herd, the rabble, the mob only, are on the other. So difficult is it for the frail, feeble mind of man to shake itself loose from all prejudice and habits. However, Andrew, or his prompter, is perfectly right in his judgment, and will finally be proved to be. So the lowest on the Tory scale will make it more for his interest than the highest on the Whiggish. And as long as a man adheres immovably to his own interest, and has understanding or luck enough to secure and promote it, he will have the character of a man of sense, and will be respected by a selfish world. I know of no better reason for it than this, that most men are conscious that they aim at their own interest only, and that if they fail, it is owing to short sight or ill luck, and therefore they can't blame but secretly applaud, admire, and sometimes envy those whose capacities have proved greater and fortunes more prosperous. That's worth quoting. I'm going to have to go back and underline that. I am engaged in a famous cause, the cause of King of Scarborough versus a mob that broke into his house and rifled his papers and terrified him, his wife, children, and servants in the night. The terror and distress, the distraction and horror of his family cannot be described by words or painted upon canvas. It's enough to move a statue, to melt a heart of stone to read the story. A mind susceptible of the feelings of humanity, a heart which can be touched with sensibility for human misery and wretchedness, must reflect, must burn with resentment and indignation at such outrageous injuries. These private mobs I do and will detest. Footnote, we'll come back to that too. If popular commotions can be justified in oppression to attacks upon the Constitution, it can be only when fundamentals are invaded, nor then unless absolute necessity, and with great caution. But these tarrings and featherings, this breaking open houses by rude and insolent rabble in resentment for private wrongs or in pursuance of private prejudices and passions, must be discountenanced. It cannot even be excused upon any principle which can be entertained by a good citizen, a worthy member of society. Dined with Mr. Collector Francis Waldo, footnote, Esquire, in company with Mr. Winthrop, the two Quinceys, and the two Sullivans, all very social and cheerful, full of politics. S. Quincy's tongue ran as fast as anybody's. He was clear in it that the House of Commons had no right to take money out of our pockets more than any foreign state, repeated large paragraphs from a publication of Mr. Burke's in 1766, and large paragraphs from Junius Americanus, etc. This is to talk and to shine before persons who have no capacity of judging, and who do not know that he is ignorant of every rope in the ship. There's another footnote, by the way. I shan't be able to get away till next week. I am concerned only in 2 or 3 cases, and none of them are on yet. Such an eastern circuit I never made. I shall bring home as much as I brought from home, I hope, and not much more, I fear. I go mourning in my heart all the day long, though I say nothing. I am melancholy for the public and anxious for my family. As for myself, a frock and trousers, a hoe and a spade would do for my remaining days. For God's sake, make your children hardy, active, and industrious, for strength, activity, and industry will be their only resource and dependence. Footnotes 27. There were addresses presented to the new governor, Gage, on his arrival, which was noticed with much pomp. He landed at the second of Long Wharf and was escorted by the council and magistracy, the troops and the cadets, to the state house, where a public dinner was given to him. But the addresses referred to here were made to the outgoing governor, Hutchinson, who was about to embark on that expedition to the mother country, intended only as a visit, but which proved a final exile. 123 of the merchants and traders, 24 members of the bar, and all of the episcopal ministers and wardens in Boston signed these papers. These lists embraced a considerable part of the gentlemen of property and standing who give the tone to society, even when they fail to affect popular opinion. Next footnote. Richard King was a successful merchant at Scarborough with leanings toward the government, to whom many people had become indebted beyond their ability to pay. Taking advantage of the disorders occasioned by the passage of the Stamp Act, a party disguised as Indians on the night of 16th of March 1766 broke into his store and his dwelling house also, and destroyed all his books and papers containing evidence of debts. Not content with this, they laid waste to his property and threatened his life should he venture to seek any legal mode of redress. Many of the perpetrators were, however, detected and brought to justice. This suit seems to have been one of the consequences. The popular bitterness thus engendered had not, however, subsided at the date of this letter, and a slight incident occurred which soon caused it once more to break out. A vessel of Mr. King's was found to have delivered a load of lumber in Boston by special license after the port had been closed, and the materials had been purchased for the use of the troops. On this occasion 40 men from the neighboring town of Gorham came over and compelled Mr. King, in fear of his life, to make a disavowal of his opinions. These repeated shocks seemed to have been too much for Mr. King's constitution. He became distempered in mind and died the following March. Next footnote. Mr. Waldo had ceased to be collector at the date of this letter, but he adhered to the royal cause, and as a consequence became an exile the next year. His estate was confiscated, and he died in London in 1782. 30, which I believe is the last footnote. This judgment appears from subsequent events to have been well-founded, for Mr. Quincy, when put to the test, showed no confidence in the correctness of his reasoning. He took office under the Crown, and in less than 2 years after the date of this letter left the country as an exile. He died in the island of Antigua in 1789. So there's that. I don't think I have enough time in the 15-minute limit that YouTube gives you to read a whole nother one. But I will maybe do another video. I can do that. Love you.